All right, so Andrew's on vacation this week, so you just got me. No, just kidding, of course. I have a guest because nobody wants to listen to just me talk for a while, so I have a very special guest today, so we'll hit the music and get rolling on it.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
All right. So on today's show, and we were just discussing how kind of weird and awkward this is before we started recording, I have my beautiful wife, Olivia, as our guest to talk about what it's like to be the wife of a Mason. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
I honestly, I like don't even know where to start with this. Like, it seems weird. Like, I feel like it would have been better if Andrew would have interviewed you and I would have interviewed Claire.
That could have been interesting. I mean, I think even having the conversation being more than just you and me sitting across from each other at a table in our home might have made it a little less awkward. But
I'm sure we'll find our way through it. But so obviously we've been together for quite a while, and you've put up with many different of my endeavors.
Yes.
Being that I was already heavily involved in Hog when we first started dating. And, you got to see what that was like for me, going through like different various leadership roles there, and then ultimately kind of having the rug pulled out from under me, which is a story maybe someday I'll fill the listeners in on, but maybe not. We'll see. But what would you say, as far as just me being part of like organizations, what would you say is like, is there a noticeable difference from like, not just like me having grown up because I got older, but is there a noticeable difference between like Hog and what Freemasonry has brought to our lives?
Well, I think Hog was definitely something you were super passionate about and was present from like the very beginning of our relationship and everything. But that definitely seemed to be more of like a pastime, if you will. Like, it was something that you did for fun. Not that you didn't have those aspirations to like grow within that organization and potentially with like Hog or Harley itself, but it was more of just like a good time, except for the fact that you were taking leadership positions within your chapter that then, panned out in a very unfortunate way. But I felt like your passion wasn't necessarily like just for that type of organization. It was the passion to like grow as a person and grow in different skills and abilities with leading people. And so I feel like this is kind of giving you more of those growth opportunities for yourself as a person and like things that you can utilize in your daily life. And so I feel like this is definitely way better for you and your mental health than that was. You were, I feel like, a lot more quick to anger for things with that, just because it was, I think, almost feel like a little bit more volatile personalities than you see now in Masonry. And I definitely feel like you've developed way better friendships from Masonry than, a lot of the friends that kind of just were not the best people, and they're good to be out of our lives, but there's definitely some people I still miss.
Right, for sure. Agreed on that. And yeah, I mean, they were two very different types of organizations. Like, obviously, like being more in the leadership roles at Hog, especially, there was those, and like how connected I became with some of the people that actually worked for Harley in Hog. Like, it kind of, towards the end there, I was kind of guiding some of my decision making and stuff to try to aspire to it being a career, because I thought it would be, I mean, if you're going to pay me and give me a company motorcycle and tell me to travel across the country, if not the world, talking about
who wouldn't
Hog,
say yes to
right?
that?
Right.
If you're passionate about motorcycles.
When that was something that was potentially going to become a possibility, I think I started treating my roles in the chapter a lot differently. And, whereas with like Masonry, like I like being in leadership positions, but I don't really aspire to anything. As far as I'm concerned, I've already done the best thing in Masonry I can, which is be worshipful master in my lodge.
Yeah.
right? So I'm able to just kind of, work on me more. And it gives me the tools to work on myself more, I feel like. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, you had, though, even though it seemed like it was so quick that you went from like joining Masonry to being the worshipful of your lodge, but like you still had that almost like, steps you were taking to get there, and like you saw the things that, you had to do for yourself to be ready for that. And like right. You had all those like you are such a planner when it came to that, and planning out like what you were going to do that was going to be, beneficial to you and your lodge.
Right. And more the lodge than me. But,
right. Yeah. But no, I meant like so that you could be successful in your role
right.
for the lodge.
Oh, I got you. So you already touched on one where I used to be like a lot more volatile and quick to anger, which is actually kind of funny because that just came up on the podcast we had with Kevin and Dave from GOC about how Kevin's patience has increased over his time of being a Mason. How else would you say Masonry has helped me grow as a man?
Ooh. Well, I mean, so okay, besides the teaching you more patience, I think it's also, I'm trying to think of how like to phrase it. You not having these questions ahead of time so I could think about answers is really detrimental to me.
But this is how we roll on Time for Fellowship.
No, but I didn't expect this.
I didn't know what I was going to ask.
I know, obviously. Okay, so how else has it helped you grow as a man outside of you working on your patience? I think it kind of goes hand in hand with that, but, always working on yourself and things that you can do to improve, or like, so planning, that's something you obviously got from it. Also, like the way in which you maybe will respond to something, you take more time with that. I mean, I know throughout our relationship, if you're writing something or things like that, you always give me for a proofread. Like that's, I feel like, been consistent for various things, whether it was back in Hog or just other conversations that maybe were happening via email, or if you're writing up a letter of some sort. But so like you take more time with thinking about things, which like I said, kind of goes hand in hand with like patience and, trying to make sure that you're presenting it or like, putting whatever out there in the best possible way. I'm
more mindful about how I respond to a situation. Yeah.
Right. Which, like I said, kind of goes hand in hand. You're not, just giving an immediate answer that off the cuff, like you could potentially be misinterpreting something and responding completely inappropriately, but like that was just your immediate reaction. Now you kind of like think about it more and, take that time to ensure that you're getting your point across or your idea across in the best possible way. Right.
Without seeming like I'm flying off the handle.
Right. Or even something where maybe you could come off like arrogant about something, like that it's not even like being angry, but it could just be like you're trying to make a point on a topic that and understand, and instead of taking a time to explain it maybe in a way that would make the person better understand it.
Right. I don't throw it out there anymore in a way that seems condescending.
Yeah.
I try to meet the person like and explain my position without being like, no, I'm right and you're wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I very much used to be
definitely used that, I feel like, in conversations in the past where someone's like, no, I'm right, you're wrong.
I'm pretty sure I have at some point back in the day. How would you say my joining Freemasonry, well, let's go back to the beginning. How did you feel about it when I first brought up the idea of joining Freemasonry to you? And I know what your answer is to this already.
So I know this has been mentioned in previous podcasts. Yes, I am still wholly invested in that. At some point we are going to have to go on a national treasure type journey and solve riddles and puzzles. I still have the picture from that cemetery in Tennessee with the various words and Masonic symbols on a tombstone. Yeah. So I am collecting the pieces, and I'm ready. But yeah, at the beginning, I mean, like many people have said, National Treasure or various other things in the world of entertainment that contained various little tidbits of Freemasonry and things like that. Obviously, that was always interesting, but I was never one that was diving deeper into any of that stuff before you were like, hey, this is something I've always been interested in. And this guy I work with, his dad's a Mason and all this stuff. So, but I mean, I was for it. Obviously, like we've talked with Hog and everything, you're definitely a joiner and a doer. Like, you like to be busy. You need to have things to do. And it seemed like it was a good fit for especially where you were at that point in time, as being something you needed.
Right. Well, it came along, and, you know, I've said this on the podcast before, Freemasonry finds you when the time is right? And it came along at a point where things were very stressful with the Hog chapter, and I mean, in fact, what was it, 2 days before I was supposed to do my fellowcraft posting was when everything fell apart with that. You know, so it was like almost like the universe was saying to me, like, hey, be ready, because a bunch of crap's about to go down with Hog, and you're going to need something that can, you know, be there for you, you know, through this. Because I, you know, to be honest, when all that stuff happened with Hog, I was really destroyed.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and like, you know, it wasn't just a, you know, group you were a part of. You had, you know, 99% of your friends were involved in it. You worked at the dealership that your chapter was out of. So it was, you know, a good solid chunk of your life that now just got shattered into a million pieces.
It was a good chunk of my identity at that point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I never would have met if you weren't, most likely. We probably never would have met if you were a part of the Hog chapter and you guys came into the restaurant I worked at. Like, so that's a lot. Right.
Yeah, no, it was a lot to lose really quickly, but it was nice to have my, at that point, relatively new brothers, you know, because I hadn't even been raised yet. I'd only been hanging out at the lodge, for 7 or 8 months, you know. I had gone through 2 of my 3 degrees, and you know, it was nice to have those brothers to kind of be there to help me through that situation. And it was also a few months before we got married, so there was a lot going on right there.
There was a lot, and it definitely came at a time that was like super crucial.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I almost wish I could see the separate timeline as to what would have happened had Freemasonry
the other
not
thread
been there. Yeah. Because that would have been, I wouldn't have had anything to throw my energy into. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But moving forward from that, how has Freemasonry impacted your life, other than me being gone a lot more, which, by the way, you are a saint for?
Yeah. I mean, that was what would have been my initial answer. I had not said that. Well, you know, I'm at home without you a lot more.
We got your books.
Yeah. But, you know, it's so crazy. Sometimes I think this is a little off topic, but, you know, before we had Zoe, obviously you were in Freemasonry and you were gone. I don't know that you're necessarily gone as much as you've been gone since we had Zoe, because you were, you know, earlier on in your time. But thinking about all those times, I'm like, man, what was I doing? I was at that point not reading as much. I was just watching shows or playing Sims. But I'm thinking now with Zoe, I feel like it's so hectic sometimes when you're gone, because she is just a little ball of energy or sassiness when she wants to be. And so it's just so exhausting by the time she goes to sleep. And then I can sit down with my book, which I do love. But I'm like, man, can't imagine having all that time. I could read so many books. But okay, how else has it impacted me besides that? I mean, obviously we've made amazing friends, which has been great. I am not as big of a joiner doer person like you, so I don't have a group outside of whatever we're doing with you.
Right.
So-
well, except you got your little online book club
yes,
group
I
now.
have my virtual friends from across the country, and
Right.
which is great and everything. But I just so that's been really nice, especially that a lot of the women that I've gotten close with, which is something I struggle with, is having female friends, because it's just not something I feel like I've done a lot. I've had a couple really close ones over many years, but so that's really, I think, been good for me, is having that group of people that at any moment I know I could text Leslie if
Right.
I needed her or needed something, or Jess, things like that. So that's nice. And I think also, because I'm not a joiner and doer, having those events that we go to or things that we do, and working from home, so I don't leave the house a lot normally, it's good to be able to get out and, see people and have normal, fun adventures.
I can't imagine working from home. I
love it.
I couldn't do it, because I'm just like, I need to be out in the world.
I will say it was hard there when it was the pandemic for a bit. Like, I know you and I both were going a little stir crazy because
We couldn't go out and do anything.
Right. We'd go to the grocery store and have to, stand in those lines outside the Kettle Range, just waiting for somebody to leave so one more person could go in, because only 3 people could be in there at a time. And so that at that time was definitely a little more challenging.
Well, right, because you never, you were working from home and never got to go anywhere.
There was sometimes I think the longest I went was 2.5 weeks without leaving the house.
Right.
Besides letting Waldo outside or something.
Right.
Taking the garbage out.
Right, because there was nowhere to go.
Right, there wasn't anywhere to go.
Unless you had shopping to do, there was
and a lot of times you would, if there was something, you would stop and get it on your way home, or try to do it before I was done working.
Right.
And so, it was convenient, but it's definitely a little bit there. I was like, oh man, what's the outside world like anymore?
You didn't want to see it during that time anyways.
No, that was crazy.
That was crazy. So you took us down a rabbit hole here.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, yeah, I know. And like most of our conversation goes.
I get it from my grandma, Got to go on the, what does she call them? It's not tangents, but...
Yeah, she's got a word for it.
Yes, she does. Her stream of consciousness sometimes.
Yeah. We should put Nancy on the podcast.
Oh my God, Nancy. I think she could just do the podcast on her own. And
yeah, probably.
Just need us to chime in every so often.
We should get Nancy a microphone and do story time with Nancy and just let her record stuff. And
that would be so cool. You know what's funny? And she showed it to me when I was there, when her and I went out to dinner this past week. And she got it for Zoe, but it's a little it looks like, the old school silver microphones that they had for singing, or I would say radio.
Right.
It looks like that, but it's small, and it's a USB plug one, and you can just plug it into a computer.
Oh.
And you can talk into it and record stuff. And she's I thought Zoe would get a kick out of it, with the little thing. But that would be even perfect. You just bring over and just sit down with Nancy.
Right.
Oh my God, I love it.
That could be a lot of fun. To bring us back on topic, somewhat closer to topic at least, with now having Zoe in the mix for going on 4 years, what do you think, Freemasonry, in the lodge and everything, is going to, obviously it's been part of her life the whole time, going to various lodge events and stuff like that. What do you think it's going to be like for her to have all those different quote-unquote uncles and aunts from the lodge and stuff?
I think she's going to love it. And she is definitely a spoiled little princess. But I think even just, I think school has helped her with this, but I think some of it too is, we've always taken her to whatever we could just so she would get, exposure to all sorts of different people, and try to bring her out of her shell, because she was definitely shy around people for a long time, which wasn't a bad thing.
No, it wasn't. And I also think, it was also partially coming out of the pandemic when she couldn't get exposed to a lot of people. And then when she did, everybody was wearing a mask.
Oh yeah, those masks. That was super evident with her doctor's appointments, and how scared she was, when they always had to wear the masks. And then when we went to, now where we go, she doesn't have to, and the doctors don't wear them, and we don't have to wear them, and she's so much more calm. And but I definitely think it's good for her to, you know, she's surrounded by people who care about her, and she, you know, perfect example how excited she gets when Jeff has come to pick you up for things and can wave out the window, and she's like, "Hi, Uncle Jeff." You know, so I think it's great for her in the sense of, you know, she knows all these people, and like for the most part she's gotten a lot more comfortable with everybody. And I think I just think that's gonna be so good for her, like to have all that support and love around her.
Right on. I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I'm the one that has a podcast. Maybe we should get you up and running with one.
Talk about books.
Oh boy.
And movies. And board games.
Oh geez.
Be good.
You're just gonna branch out into a whole bunch of stuff.
Just whatever my whimsy is for that day.
Just you talking to a microphone.
Just talking to myself. Me, myself, and I.
I mean, you usually talk to yourself, so.
I do a lot, actually. Especially when no one's home, because then I know no one can judge me besides myself.
All right.
When I tell myself to stop doing it.
I'm running light on brain power right now to come up with another question. Ooh, we could flip the bill here a little bit. Is there any questions you have for me and my thoughts on Freemasonry? Or you've listened to every episode of the podcast, so and you've been around me long enough that you've heard me talk about everything probably more than you ever wish I would. And sometimes you're probably sitting there like, telling me to shut up.
More than once. I'm like, you told me that. And then you're like, but this is this. You said it the exact same way the last time, too.
You know, I just can't keep a track of everything sometimes. I know.
That's why I still don't understand how you've been able to memorize things, because I think for not just like after it, but from the beginning of our relationship, your memory has never been the best.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that your memory has improved in other aspects of your life since you got better at that, but you clearly are like super good at it for Masonry, and maybe it's just, you know, it unlocked that like secret talent you didn't know you had.
Apparently
but
it
it's
did.
Very niche. It's only good.
It's only good for one thing.
Masonic knowledge. And
don't tell me where we're going to lunch tomorrow, because I won't remember.
Well, and it's funny, and I know it makes no sense, but every time I can't help but say it when you, like, I have told you something, and then you will, you know, not remember it or whatever, and then I'm like, remember I told you, and I'll tell you like exactly when I told you it and what you said back, and you're like, well, no, obviously I don't remember it. But every single time, I'm just like, maybe I'm trying to like, maybe this will start jogging your memory if I just say it the same way every time. I give you all the details, but it hasn't worked yet.
I'm a man. I have very selective memory.
What was that thing you just saw yesterday about not hearing your wife?
Oh, yeah. It's not that I don't remember what you told me. It's just that I never heard you tell me it.
But you respond. That's the thing that's the worst. And sometimes you respond like appropriately to whatever I say. So I'm like, maybe it's your autopilot.
Hey, autopilot takes over a lot in my life.
Or I've been seeing now a lot on social media's things where like various, you know, content creators or whatever, where they do like the skits. And now the big thing is about like your outie and your innie. So like the person you are on the outside versus the person you are on the inside. And it's like this one person had where like you don't know, like they don't know about each other and they don't know what the other one does. So it was saying something about how like, oh, your outie runs this restaurant and it's like this burger joint is really good, and like talking about all these things that's just cringe to the innie. And so maybe that's it. It's your innie responding. Or the other way around. I don't know. One of
the two ways. I mean, a lot of my life is run on autopilot. I drive the same route for all my stops every day, you know, like, I mean, I'm not really on autopilot while I'm driving. Like, I'm paying attention to everything, but I am on autopilot because I'm not thinking about where my next turn is or anything like that.
Well, they say that's a thing where, like, a lot of times people, when you do, like, the same drive, especially commutes, like, people will have, like, no recollection of the commute. And I never understood that. I mean, I started driving later in life, but because I had my anxiety about driving, like, I was always, like, hyper focused when I was driving. So I was remembering like everything. And then recently I've started to have that with driving her to school and dropping her off. Mm-hmm. Sometimes all of a sudden I'll just be like, oh, I'm already almost home. And I'm like, where was I for this drive? Like, I'm driving safely. Nothing's happened. But like, what? I apparently just deleted that from the memory banks.
Right, because it doesn't need to be there. Nothing, unless somebody like pulls out on you or something like that, like something happens. There's your brain's just like, we know this. We don't need to remember this. It's like it's condensing. Like you already have a memory of this drive, so we don't need another memory of this drive. Right. Let's take that out.
Or like that guy in, oh my God, what's that movie? I don't know, that Stephen King one, but where he's got the visual of your memory being like the library type thing, and then he's got to make room for new stuff, so he's collecting the things to throw in the furnace. Right. My brain is just like, okay, it's going into a file, right into the furnace.
Yep, yeah. And I mean, that makes sense, because that's like, I like to think of it how like security cameras that don't move are able to store so many days in such small memory. It's because they just use, if nothing changes about the scene, they just use the one frame of it till something changes, because
it's not capturing every second.
There's no reason to have all of a million frames of something not happening, right? So it's like condensing to use less memory. Like, you don't need to remember this drive. Nothing different happened on it than the other 500 times you've done this drive.
But oh wait, now there's this car over here that's looked like it's been in an accident, just parked on the side of the road, and a police officer's walking over to it. Like, remember that? That's weird.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. What else you got?
This is not my podcast.
I know, but I'm asking you if you have any questions for me. I'm flipping it around.
Yeah, I don't know that
You're
I do.
You're the intelligent one of the two of us.
I mean, I think that's debatable. I have really good, common sense and critical thinking skills. That's something I'm good at.
Oh, but I think I'm better at both of those.
See, and this is why you're a jerk. I can't think of any questions right now because, I didn't know I was going to have to ask you questions. So I wasn't thinking about questions.
I wasn't planning on having to go that route either, but,
I don't think you had a plan for any of it, which makes no sense. You plan everything.
Except for the podcast. Andrew and I have a very strict rule. We might do a loose outline at best, but, like, this was never intended to be something that felt scripted or seemed scripted or was scripted at all. It's just, otherwise we wouldn't have went down all these crazy rabbit holes we went down of stuff listeners probably didn't want to hear about.
I mean, who doesn't want to hear about Nancy or my disappearing memory?
Right. Well, yeah, or my lack of hearing or memory, depending which way you want to go with it.
It's probably a little bit of both.
Like I've always told you, I am half deaf.
Yeah, you are. I don't disagree with that.
Been around a lot of loud things for a very long time, very long periods of my life.
Okay, so this is just going to be a lame question, but what do you feel like has been your favorite moment in your Masonic career thus far?
Ooh, that's a good one. Also very easy to answer. Getting installed as Worshipful Master.
I pretty much assumed that's what you were going to say. But,
hands down.
Anytime I can get you teary-eyed about something.
Hey, now.
They can't see it, so I gotta tell them what's going on.
That's not fair.
Why is it not fair? They could probably hear it in your voice.
Probably.
The tremble of the lip.
Yeah. It was an important moment. But one of my best friends was installing me, which made it just even that much more special. Yeah. So, and you were there, and I had no clue what my gavel was going to look like.
I mean, you really just said the second you handed me my gavel, because it was so amazing.
Well, that whole day was amazing, but that was... Yeah. Oh, the ice maker. Yeah, I was wondering what the heck I just heard all of a sudden. I was like, what the heck is that? No, the gavel was amazing, and kudos to you. You are way better at gift giving.
Yeah.
And being able to, like, surprise somebody.
I love surprises. Right. So I will do everything in my power to not ruin a surprise.
Yeah. And that drives me nuts.
Matt's the exact opposite, which is really annoying because I'm someone who loves surprises and wants to be surprised, but he can't anytime he is working on something, which usually you need my input for.
Yeah, well, I'm not a good gift giver.
Know what the surprise is going to be. Or you want to tell me, like, and I'm like, but then it's not a surprise. Like, that is the part that I want the most. I don't even care what the surprise is, really. I just want to be surprised.
I'm not a good gift giver, so I usually need to ask to make sure. I mean, you saw pictures of some of the engagement rings I was debating before I settled on the one I did, and you were like, oh, thank God you didn't buy that. So, you know, I think I know what you like. I got a fair trade-off
for ruining, I mean, I got the ring one, obviously.
Right.
But for ruining myself, ruining a surprise for myself of what was my engagement ring going to be, you did great with that surprise. So you can do it, because that was amazing.
Yeah.
But I also thought everyone hated me because everyone was avoiding me. So it put me in a really terrible emotional place for a little bit.
We should probably explain that a little bit. So she told me that if she helped me out with what the ring was.
I said if I tell you what ring I want, or show you what ring I like the most, then you have to make it an epic proposal.
Which I did.
Which he did.
I used some connections at the time to get...
Because this was back in our hog days.
Yep, and very heavily involved. And, you know, I made sure a bunch of people were going to show up, which is why everybody acted like they hated you, because they didn't want to ruin the surprise. About it,
and it was during whatever rally.
It was, during the... It wasn't an anniversary year, so it was just the Milwaukee rally that year. But they did it big, and they had Jackal in town.
And I was up at the dealership for, you know, to walk around, see the vendors, maybe listen to some music. And I was by myself because you were working.
Yep.
And all the people I was seeing from the chapter, like, would really quickly, like, say hello to me and then just be like, okay, see you later, and, like, leave. And I was like, gosh, like, okay, I guess I'm legitimately going to be walking around by myself, which didn't last long because then I think your parents had picked me up. And I went back to the house.
Yeah, I don't remember. And no, because we left from house to go down to the museum for Jackal.
I don't think I stayed there all day, though. Maybe I did. Maybe I went and sat.
I think you came later in the day. I don't think you were there like all day.
And I went and sat by myself in a chair. That's right, I did. I went and sat in one of like the cushy chairs at the couch or something and played on my phone or whatever. And then down at the museum.
Right. So what she didn't know is I had worked this thing out with one of the regional managers to get us backstage for Jackal under the guise of they needed another person to help throw T-shirts out.
Yes. So we went down to the museum then, where that was going to be. And even then, with you, like, there was obviously a couple people that we talked to, like, particularly from Harley that you were working this deal with, that talked to us for quite a while.
Yep.
And then we went, you know, backstage. I was like, oh, man, like, this is so cool. And you get to be on stage. And then I remember being up, like, in the wings or whatever of the stage. And, like, I was starting to, like, try and take pictures of you throwing out T-shirts.
Which, by the way, for everybody, you've heard me talk about it on the podcast before. This was before I was a Freemason.
Yes.
So I was it was not quite at the height of my being deathly afraid of public speaking, but I was I was pretty far up there still.
Yes. And this was in front of a massive crowd of people.
10 to 15,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was huge. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And
then they called me up to the microphone and you were like, uh-oh.
Yeah. They were like, oh, I hear we have this new guy helping us out. Let's bring him up to the microphone. And I think I was trying to go to a video for that because I was like, holy moly. This is...
Like, he's either going to stand there and not say anything or he's actually going to pull this off somehow.
Right. But, you know, then, big surprise. It's him then bringing me out on stage to propose to me, which I had no idea. I spent all day thinking everyone hated me, and I thought I was just out there. And I'm really mad that no one told me to take my purse off with my big chunky sweater on it. And for the fact that I handed my phone to someone to video record it, and they never hit record.
Thankfully, we had a good buddy in the audience that did get a recording of it.
We had quite a few people that got video and pictures because we had all of the people we were friends with in the chapter and stuff like that down in the audience. So, yeah, absolutely epic night. And to have Phil Davidson be the first person, to come and hug me and congratulate me on the engagement was pretty amazing.
Well, and we knew Bill decently well at that point.
Yeah.
Like, we had hung out with him a couple of times.
Well, yeah. Especially because, when you had the 90...
Yeah,
and
him and I would always talk about that.
Or anything that we were down at the museum for,
Because we were both a big fan of the 1990 Fat Boy, and we both had one. But of course he would have one.
Well, of course.
Oh, yeah, that was a fun tangent. Yeah. I do like talking about that because I will probably never be able to top that.
Yeah, I highly doubt that, but
I don't.
I still hope.
I don't know any way I could, because then we spent the rest of the night still backstage.
Yeah.
And
for Jackal and
got to have a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was super cool. So
that was awesome.
It was. I did pretty good.
You did. I mean, you could still try to do some surprises at some point.
I might have to take my headphones off right now. They're getting a little tight. My head's getting a little big just talking about it.
Yeah. Eye roll.
That deserved an eye roll. You beat my ego down most days, so.
I do not. I mean, you hear that?
What?
I said, you hear that?
Hear what?
Me beating down your ego, but you don't hear anything else?
Yeah, I do hear that part, yeah. I pay attention to the insults thrown my way, just not the other stuff. We could talk about some of the events and stuff that we've done. We were just at axe throwing last night. I mean, and
which is the third year, I think.
Third or fourth, yeah. One of the two.
I can't remember.
Neither can I.
I feel like it's got to be 3 because if it was 4, that would have been before Zoe was born, which would have still been pandemic-y times.
Yeah, maybe we started talking about it then, but we couldn't do it because of the pandemic.
Right.
But we've gone to Waukesha Shrimp Boil twice now. There's always spaghetti dinner and all that kind of stuff.
I love spaghetti. Yeah. Anything Halloween and pasta, right. I'm in.
Well, and the soup night.
Soup night is fun, too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good events. You like coming up to Grand Lodge. There we go. That's something we could talk about. You love coming to AC and hanging out, making the rounds in all the hospitality rooms and randomly having the Grand Master's wife corner you and talk to you.
I mean, obviously it's fun going up there. It's a vacation for me mostly because I just get to do whatever I feel like doing during the day when you're at your stuff. And I do miss that bookstore being open, not by appointment. Thanks, pandemic.
Right.
But yeah, so I get to just do whatever. And then obviously at night, it's always fun because there's whatever happenings. Yeah. Or even if we go out to a bar or a restaurant or whatever, we have a good time. But yeah. It's always exhausting though by the end of it. It is because it's vacation from that vacation.
It's a lot of hanging out and conversating with people and meeting new people.
And usually late nights.
And
in those hospitality rooms, it gets so loud and so hot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's something that we've gotten to enjoy doing together though, which has been fun. And I always like having you there because even though we end up parting ways most of the time, I know you can handle yourself and talk to people and get to know people and everything else while I'm doing the same thing, you know, and we'll come together at various points over the night and whatever, but we can both survive in that environment independently, which is nice, and it works, and we get to still hang out while still doing what we need to do.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing we love, obviously we both love going up to Watoma for any reason.
Shout out to Adam and Victor.
Yeah, when we get to go up there for masonry things too, it's just a bonus.
Right, yep. And when we went up was that Silas Shepherd? That was a year ago.
Just a year ago, because you saw that in your Facebook memories today.
Yeah, we were up there for the Lodge of Research meeting and got to hit some of our favorite spots in Watoma.
Favorite haunts. Yeah,
see Adam and Dave and Victor and all those Watoma boys that we've gotten to know.
Yeah. So that's definitely
it's given us more opportunities to travel to like and enjoy places that we already like to go to, but like now we like have people when we go there too. It's not not that it was just like, not that I ever minded going up to Watoma with just you. We always had fun, just the two of us and stuff. But like now we have other people and their wives and stuff we can hang out with when we go up there, which just makes it even more fun.
Well, and it's, I mean, I think back to like, not that there's anything wrong with it. When we first started going up there, we didn't really go anywhere but like the cabin and Quick Trip and the occasional round we had to make to Ace Hardware for bug spray.
Or whatever we needed from Ace Hardware,
The world has just opened up there with, now we go, you know, to all the places that we love, the shops and Doggers and Cristianos and was that Silas Shepherd when we went to the Rusty Nail?
I think that was, because we went there
the
Friday
leather goods
night.
Place. Why can't I think of the name of that one? The pizza place that we started hearing about. Johann's, yes. So like now we're even, we always talked about exploring more up there.
Well,
but
we're going up there more.
Right, that's also helped. When we would go up there, we just wanted to get the peace and quiet of Watoma and the relaxation of Watoma.
A lot of times it was, you know, for me to hunt as well. So we weren't really, you know, now we're going up there outside of hunting times, which is, you know, changed that dynamic a little bit. So it's been good. I would say overall Freemasonry has been very beneficial for us as a couple and, you know, us as a family now with Zoe. Like I think it's been good. I think it's, you know, in various ways helped our relationship, like, and, you know, branched us out and got us to meet new people, and we have strong friend circles. And
absolutely,
you know,
heck, they moved us in one day.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah,
that was a whirlwind of a day.
It was. I mean, there's a few straggly things that we still had to pick up at the old house, but yeah, we pretty much did 2 loads of a 26-foot U-Haul and got everything here, and the majority of the essentials unpacked in a day, thanks to the help of brothers and brothers' wives, and like everybody put in the work that day.
It was crazy.
I can't wait till we have the barbecue to thank everybody for that.
That'll be so fun. Come hungry if you're invited. Because I guarantee there's going to be way too much food. But there will be to-go containers.
Oh, yeah.
For leftovers.
We're going to need to-go containers.
That worked out so good with her birthday. That's another thing. We had Zoe's birthday party at the lodge this year, which allowed us to not have it in that teeny tiny backyard at our old house, which served us well. But, you know, as your friend group grows and, you know, I mean, even just some people that we know that have kids, like as they grow their families too, that just increases. Or like depending on the day we do it, maybe there's more people that can come because they don't work that day.
Well, and as soon as everybody hears I'm barbecuing,
now that people have been, they're like, okay, we will plan our life around this to get some of that barbecue. But yeah, that was so great, and it helped that Zoe had been there so much. It was a place she was already comfortable. You know, she acts like she owns that place when she goes in there sometimes. So yeah, that was so fun. Yeah,
so I'd say we've gone about 45 minutes now, gone down some crazy rabbit holes and everything else, and I know we're both hankering for a little bit of dinner. So it sounds like a good place to wrap it up.
Sounds good to me.
Let us know what you think of this episode, guys, and you know,
if you want me to replace Matt on the podcast, I totally understand. And I will open up my schedule.
She is vying for my spot now. Andrew, I don't know how you're going to feel about that when you listen to this and
Claire can just
it.
take over for Andrew. And
so you guys are just going to suddenly have a podcast.
Yes.
You can just change the name right away, too.
We'll just slowly start changing everything about it. We'll put me in, then it'll be Claire, and then we'll slowly start veering away from masonry. And before you know it, you guys will be like, what podcast is this? When did this get in my favorites?
Time for Girls instead of Time for Fellowship or something, right?
Well, that's
probably not a good title. No, not my best idea.
Time for Hot Gossip.
Right. Time for Tea.
Time for Tea. Love it.
Yeah.
Trademark pending.
All right. Well, babe, thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome.
Thank you for putting up with all my escapades. And as Andrew would put it, our newest dependent body that's been going on for a little bit over a year now, which is the podcast. And taken up a lot of our time at times.
But I feel like you guys have gotten a good rhythm now where it's not like in the beginning, of course it was going to take up more time because you guys were figuring it out.
Right, yeah. But yeah, we're starting to get it dialed in. We're more efficient in our processes now.
Right.
Yeah, so, but yeah, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Thanks for putting up with everything I do.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, make sure you follow us on our socials, and you have a great day.